Hi, my name is Michaela Rush, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about digital citizenship, specifically passwords, privacy, and data tracking. So, just to get an idea of what we're going to be talking about today, this lesson plan comes from the International Standards for Technology Education, Standard 2D. Students manage their personal data to maintain digital privacy and security and are aware of data collection technology used to track their navigation online. To break this down for you, here's some of the learning objectives for today. The student will be able to create strong and effective passwords, authenticate sources requesting information, decide what information is appropriate to share on each site, locate and change privacy settings, locate and understand privacy policy, describe cookies and other data collection technology. Basically, the big three for today are passwords, privacy settings, and cookies. So, talking about passwords. Passwords are the easiest way that you can protect your data and information online. Now, this list of the worst passwords of 2018 comes from a password management site. These are their rankings of the top 5 worst passwords, the least secure of the passwords that they've seen people actually use through their password manager. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, password, and so forth. So these aren't really good passwords, but let's talk about how we can make some awesome passwords to protect ourselves. So, when you're making a password, you want to use a mix of numbers, letters, and symbols. You want to use different passwords for each website, which I know can be really, really annoying, but trust me, this is the best way to protect your information, as if someone figures out your password for one website, you're not compromising every other login you have. Another way you can make a password that's very helpful, besides just random numbers, letters, and symbols, is creating a passphrase and then editing it to not just be a straight up sentence. So with a passphrase, you're going to come up with a sentence, and then you are going to change parts of it into different numbers or symbols where applicable. So if I'm saying my passphrase is I go to the grocery store for apples, I might change the FOR 4 into the number 4, and so forth. Also, using a password manager is a great way to keep all your passwords in front of you. Personally, I like to use the Chrome password manager as it's really simple to use, and also I can go back and look at my passwords for each one of my websites, and I can actually see what the password is. It's not just like my browser remembers and then I can't see it later. I always have the list if I want to access it. Okay, so now really quickly, I want you guys to discuss what are common mistakes people make with passwords. And I want you to come up with 2 do's and 2 do nots for password creation. Okay, so here are some quick do's and do nots from me. So, don't use the same password for all your websites. Don't share your passwords, especially with people you don't know. And do set up recovery emails and text if possible. So basically, this is a way that if you get locked out of your account for whatever reason, or if you need to reset something but you can't access the email account that you made it with, you can use this recovery email and text to regain access to your account in a secure way. I know that Google, for example, does this with, especially with phone numbers. And also something similar is two-factor authentication. IU uses Duo, which basically has you log in using your username and passphrase, and then you have to go and verify from an additional device that the login that's occurring is really you. This is a great way to ensure that each time your account is logged into, that it is you and that you have a way to keep track of it. Moving on to privacy and data. So, when you're creating an online account, what information do websites ask for? Just brainstorm really quickly. I gave you a little bit of a hint with the 4-leaf clover on the right. So what information are websites going to ask for typically? Some really common things that websites might ask for. They might ask for your email address, your phone number, your payment information, especially if it's an online store, or your location. Think GPS or mapping devices. So, privacy and data. Why does the website need this information? That's a great question to ask yourself when you're signing up for a new account. If you get the notification on your phone or on your computer that so-and-so app requests access to your photos, to your location, whatever. Think, why does this website need this information? Okay, well, let's think of some good examples. If I'm going onto an online shop, like Forever 21, for example, they're going to want my payment information because I need to pay for the goods I'd like to receive. They might also ask me for my address so that way they can ship my items to me. So that makes sense. But if you ever see a website ask for information that doesn't make sense, that it wouldn't need, do not allow them to access more information than is necessary. It's always a good rule of thumb, and you can always go back and change that later if you find that you do need it for certain features. Also, another good question, do I need to enter this data to use the site? If I don't enter this data, am I not going to be able to use this account? Also thinking then, do I really want to use this account if they need information from me that I don't think is relevant? Also, who else can see my data, either from the site or third party? So when I'm saying from the site, I'm saying if I'm making social media, for example, does that mean that other users, if I give the phone number to the website, can other users see my phone number? Yes or no? Do I want them to see my phone number? Probably not. And third party has more to do with a little bit about data tracking and cookies, which we'll discuss later. So, privacy and data, some quick tips. Don't share any unnecessary information with websites. Like I said before, if they're asking for some type of information you don't think they need, don't allow them to access it. You can always go back and change this later if you need it for whatever reason. Make sure your personal address and phone number aren't publicly visible. So going back to that shop analogy, if I'm the owner of a shop, for example, I may want them to see my business's address and my business phone number on the website. However, I'm probably not going to want people to see my personal address or phone number for the sake of privacy. Also, don't share private information or passwords with others in general, but especially online. Even if you know the person in real life, don't share this information via the internet. This is just a great way for your messages to get intercepted by hackers or by other third parties who don't want the information to go to. So just as a general rule, don't share private information or passwords with others online, even if you know them. So moving into cookies. Cookies are website-specific pieces of data that's stored on your device. Cookies can be a little hard to explain. I had to do a lot of research on this myself. But essentially, when you visit a website, cookies allow a certain website to store data about you by saving it onto your own computer, which saves room on the server of the website, saves them a little bit of time, and allows things to speed up a little bit. So cookies can track, among other things, they can track browsing activity, login information, unique visitors, and your session on the website. So a lot of this goes back to the shop analogy. If I'm going through and I'm looking for clothes, cookies are going to track my browsing activity to find clothes that if I like this blue top, they're going to show me other blue tops that I might like. They're also going to track my login information, so that's like a keep me signed in type feature, so that way I don't have to enter my username and password every single time I go to the site. Then moving more to like a website owner perspective, unique visitors. If I'm owning a shop and I want to see how many different people look at my website a day, cookies allow me to see that, okay, 100 different people looked at my site today. That way, cookies, by being stored on your device, allow my website to say, okay, this is one person. So even if you go to my website multiple times, I'll know, okay, this only counts as one person, not as 3 different people. They also track your session on the website. So the easiest way to think about that is your shopping cart, your session. That's important so that way the shopping cart information is not taking up room on the servers of the website, but instead is saved on your computer so you can quickly access it. Now, third-party cookies is where we're going to hear more about data collecting from other websites. So a good way to think of this is if I go onto a website, I often will get the Pinterest notification. If I scroll over an image, it'll say Pinterest. So that's an example of a third-party cookie. As I'm not looking on Pinterest, however, Pinterest has to have access to some of my information for this other website to know I'm looking at something that is a pinnable item. Third-party cookies are something that you're really going to want to look into when you're reading the privacy policies of a new website to see, okay, who is accessing my information, what information are they able to see, and then where else does that information go from there. So, with all that said, how do I keep my data safe? So, easiest way to keep your data safe besides passwords is reading your privacy policies before you create accounts. Privacy policies can be hard to read sometimes, but it is important to think logically and say, okay, well, if it's not clear to me the information that they want, why should I sign up for this website if I don't know what they're doing with my information? It's important for you to know. Especially, you want to pay attention to third-party access. That's what we're talking about with cookies. What other websites are seeing my information, my history, my activity on this website. And also encryption, which we're going to discuss in just a moment, which is really important for keeping your data safe from outsiders. Also, go into your login settings. So anytime you sign up for a new account, you want to go into your settings. You're going to look at all the things it's asking for. It's asking for your email, your phone, any other information, and make sure that all of the information the website has, you're comfortable with them having, and turn off anything that's just not necessary. Another easy way to keep your data safe is to keep all your devices and apps updated. The most common types of updates that devices and apps receive is for security issues, because the developers are keeping track of, okay, where are we having security breaches, and are constantly working to update that to protect your data. So by keeping your devices and apps updated, you're keeping yourself as safe as possible. So, encryption. Encryption is basically a way to scramble information online, so that way if I'm looking at your information right in front of me, I have it, I can't tell what it says as it's in a different code. So a standard key, which is a key is the way you figure out how something is encrypted, the code that basically the code cracking method, is 256 bits online, and that's a lot of information. I do not know how to even begin to describe that to you, but that is a lot of information. So you're going to want to make sure that, especially on messaging sites, for example, if you don't want people seeing your messages, that this data is encrypted and that is not easily accessible to others. So asymmetric keys is something that's a little bit more complex, but asymmetric keys essentially means that when you go online, there are two types of keys, these encryption keys that your computer has access to, a public and a private key. And I have a really good video in the sources from Khan Academy that is a great way to explain this. But basically, asymmetric keys allow for you and others to use public encryption when necessary. So think like if you're messaging a friend, you don't have the same key automatically on your computers. So this allows you to talk to each other and use that same encryption key. And then a private key, which allows you to, let's say, it allows you to access those messages. It's something that's specific to your computer. So for more information on that, I would recommend that you check out the Khan Academy video that I have linked at the end. And then another way that people will try to get hold of your data is through phishing. So, how are we going to avoid phishing and scams? First, talk about what is phishing. Phishing is a means of trying to take someone's data, typically for nefarious purposes. So we're using the word phishing or scams, we're talking about in a negative way. So here are some signs that it may be phishing. Emails is the worst offender of this online. So here are signs that it might be an example of phishing. So it tries to create a sense of urgency, like, we need you to act now. This will happen or that will happen. There's misspelled words, there's poor grammar, especially your name. It's something that's a really, really bad giveaway. I, for example, have a name that's a little hard to spell, so oftentimes I will see my name misspelled in these type of emails. Phishing emails also typically ask for your passwords or payment information, which really no site should be doing in an email. Or it might ask you to download files or click links. So, how do we avoid this? When you see an email that you're not sure who it's from, don't respond to it. First, you want to investigate. You want to verify the sender of the email. So if I'm getting an email from a teacher, for example, I'm going to go check and click to see that the email address that's sending me this email is actually the domain that my teacher would have. So I go to Indiana University, so I want to make sure that's an Indiana University domain. Also, never click on links or attachments from people you don't know. And finally, if you have concerns about the email contents, like it may actually be something you need to update, I would recommend that you contact the company directly, not by responding to the email, but for example, if it's a bank, go onto your bank's website, find their phone number, and talk to someone about the issues that you're having. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief overview of some privacy and safety things for digital citizenship. Here are some sources that I used and some great resources for you to check out after. Thank you so much.